Trump is now endorsing not one, but two different Republicans in a Washington state congressional race. Why? Because he wants to defeat another Republican, Congressman Dan Newhouse, because Newhouse voted to impeach him for inciting the January 6th Capitol riot. Now, just a reminder, Donald Trump is running to be president again. He is in a tight race with Kamala Harris, as we've been talking about. You would think he might be focused on that, right? But instead, he is spending a lot of time and energy attacking fellow Republicans. Like this weekend when he called for a purge of the Republican Party and attacked the former lieutenant governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan, who has endorsed Harris. And just a few hours later, at a rally in Georgia, Trump repeatedly attacked the state's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and the Republican governor, who's very popular, Brian Kemp, who both refused to go along with Trump's lie that he won the election in Georgia in 2020.
Brian Kemp, your governor, who I got elected, by the way. He's a very disloyal person, isn't he? Very disloyal. Kemp and Raffensperger are doing everything possible to make 2024 difficult for Republicans to win. You can do a lot better, and you'll do a lot better with a better governor. This state has become a laughingstock over it. He's a bad guy, he's a disloyal guy, and he's a very average governor. Little Brian Kemp. Bad guy.
I mean, what's pretty clear from all of this is that Trump won't stop until he rids the Republican Party of everyone who isn't sufficiently obedient, which is why some Republicans aren't just speaking out against him. They're actually endorsing Kamala Harris. In fact, the campaign just announced a new group called Republicans for Harris, which launched over the weekend with over 24 Republican endorsements, including former governors, members of Congress, and Trump administration officials. One of those Republicans is Joe Walsh, a former congressman from Illinois, and he joins me now. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, so looking at this list, it's a very impressive list, a diverse list. A lot of these people on the list have been pretty public opponents of Trump. So tell me a little bit more about what the group is going to be doing and what specifically they'll do to try to defeat him.
Hey, Jen, great to be with you. Look, what we want to do is give Republicans around this country, especially in the battleground states, the courage to come out and say we're better than Donald Trump. We know there are a lot of Republicans in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania who don't want to support Trump. They're afraid because, Jen, as you know, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure locally. And when you publicly oppose Trump as a Republican, you pretty much end your career as a Republican. That's a scary thing. You talked about how the party has become a cult. He's already purged people who are not obedient to him. What we're going to do this campaign is we're going to get out there and tell Republicans all throughout this country that we're better. You're better than Trump. And doggone it, support Kamala Harris, the only person who can keep this guy out of the White House.
That all sounds good, I think, to everybody watching. I want to ask you, not that you can get into the mind of Donald Trump, but you're familiar with what it's like to be attacked by him. And I can't figure out a couple of his attacks. I mean, he's went after Brian Kemp over the weekend, who's a very popular Republican governor of Georgia. I mean, he wants to win, I assume, Donald Trump. What do you think is going on there?
Well, Jen, that's a tough question because in truth, we don't know what's going on there. In truth, much of what Trump says doesn't make sense. We try so hard to normalize this guy. He's a horrible human being. He lies as he breathes. He doesn't give a damn about anybody but himself. He's utterly un-American. He's a sociopath. He's a psychopath. He's incapable of bringing people together. So at one level, Jen, it makes no sense what he's saying. But at the other level, he wants to beat this party down. I believe this. Until the only people in my former party are people who are on their knees pledging to him every day. It's going to be a party that shrinks. And there's a great opportunity here to convince Republicans that Kamala Harris is American. Kamala Harris supports democracy and the rule of law. So come on, stand up now.
You may have just answered the next thing I wanted to ask you about, which is just, there are people, and some of the people who are on this Republicans for Harris committee have said, I don't agree with her on policy issues, but this is a moment where our democracy is at stake. You're having a lot of private conversations. Well, so what are you personally saying to fellow Republicans, current or former, who may find it difficult to vote for a Democrat for president?
Jen, I'm a weird guy in that I come from MAGA. I voted for Trump in 2016. I'm a reformed MAGA gangbanger. I still talk to these folks every single day. And what I tell them is this is like a really rare, unique moment in American history where you have the opportunity to quite literally save this experiment. You nailed it, Jen. It's not about policy. And I say that over and over. Kamala Harris and I probably disagree on most policy. This is not about policy. This is about preserving this thing that we all believe in. And Jen, the other thing I say to Republicans throughout the country is, you're better than Trump. Trump believes you're cruel. He believes you're intolerant. He believes you're angry all the time. That's not you. You're better than that. That seems to resonate with a lot of Republicans who are on the fence.
It's really interesting. Thank you so much for joining us, former Congressman Joe Walsh, recovering former MAGA gangbanger, to quote you. I really appreciate you joining me this evening.